About taking up mega projects the government way. Taking up mega projects the government way. It's none other than Mr. S.P. Tucker, and I had the great fortune and privilege of talking to him during the break. He is Member Secretary, APS DPS, and Special Chief Secretary to Government Planning Department, Andhra Pradesh. And one of the wonderful words, while you have got all those things out there for you to read, that I heard is, if you want something to develop in Andhra Pradesh, meet me. We expedite it. It's immediate out there, right there, and approvals are immediate. There is no red tapeism, no waiting. And to give you an idea what Mr. Tucker is, how he views taking care of the natural resources, one of the statements of Mr. Tucker is, water resources of Andhra Pradesh. It's one of the papers published by Mr. Tucker regarding water resources of Andhra Pradesh, published by IWMI, ASPREAC, AP, and Vista. And he conceptualized and led the water reform agenda based on community-based self-management and the concept water as a public trust, a utility which is a public trust and which should be collectively taken responsibility of. So ladies and gentlemen, may I take this opportunity to invite Mr. S.P. Tucker onto the dais to enlighten us with his immense knowledge and experience in implementing some wonderful projects. Sir, it's indeed my privilege to invite you onto the dais.
Thank you, Mr. Srinivas. Good morning to all of you. Last week we have conducted an interview in India International Center in Delhi, where 20 people like you have agreed to come and work with us in our office, a sabbatical of 1 year from some of the good companies and trying to see if they can play some role. And about 2 months ago, we had done an interview for Tata Institute of Social Sciences, and where we picked up 18 students from all over the country. Now they are working us on a vision document for Andhra Pradesh, where we want to be the international destination by 2029. And we are talking about happiness index, not the GSDP, which all over the world is being discussed. The speaker before me was talking about 1 in 10,000 year accident possibility of the railways. And I was thinking that in 2009, we had very heavy rainfall in Krishna Basin. And when we did analysis, it was rated as 1 in 10,000 year flood. Normal discharge in Srisalem Dam, maximum discharge possible is 13 lakh cusecs. And almost for 72 hours, we received 26 lakh cusecs of water, which is double of it, and the dam was full. And it was 5 days of the big teamwork. We had all the people working with us, and only 4 people died. In between, there was a threat to Nagarjuna Sagar Dam. We did not even inform the Chief Minister. We did an evacuation plan that in case it breaks down, what is going to happen. I'll come back to those things later on. Time is very short. I'll not take more than 15-20 minutes to talk to you. When I was entering the high-tech city, I was remembering 1985, I was collector here, and I identified this 500 acres of land which has become the high-tech city. So I showed it to Mr. Naidu. Mr. Naidu was Karshak Parishad chairman that time, and we wanted to set up a big city here. Mr. NTR preponed the elections, they lost elections, and this land remained as it is. So when they came back, we worked on this city. Today when I'm talking about, basically my talk will be in 4 items. What are the short hits on change management we are trying to do in the new state of Andhra? What is the structural change we are thinking so that we compete with the best in the world? What's happening to the new capital city and urban areas in Andhra Pradesh? And what role you people can play, or all the fraternity can play in the development, not only for Andhra Pradesh, but all over the country. I just want you to raise your hand. How many of you read Autobiography of a Yogi? I just want to see the spiritual quotient of this group. It's very small. Stanford Memorial Service of Apple founder. A small packet was given to all the 500 visitors. And when they opened it, it was Autobiography of a Yogi. And it was a self-realization which the things were being discussed. If you are interested, because what you are trying to do, when you play alone with your computer, then you become a team member, then you become a leader. A lot of introspection is required. So this is a book where you should start your journey, Autobiography of a Yogi. There's another person called Paul Brunton, who came to India in 1920s, 1930s. He met Ramana Maharshi, he met a whole lot of gurus of that time, just to understand what exactly is happening in a country like India. When you go to foreign countries, you don't feel the kind of feeling you have in India, because it's thousands of years of whole lot of spiritual growth which is happening. In fact, about 6 months ago, we called Jaggi Vasudev, all the bureaucrats, all politicians. For 3 days, we went through a course of Isha Yoga, which was basically to understand what exactly we are and what are we trying to do with our life and what is possibility for us. So if you go back about a year ago, the state was bifurcated. It was not a very scientific division. And we realized that if we have to do something, we have to do fast. And I consider John Cotter as my management guru. He talks about change management. He says there are 8 stages of management of change. Everyone has to realize there's a crisis. We have to build up a vision around that. We have to build up a team around that. And then we have to see which are the short hits which we can achieve. And the long-term change, institutional change will happen in around 36 months' time. But the short hits will start happening in around 7 or 8 months' time. And that's the time we have with us. So if we completed 1 year, we stood 6th in the country, Andhra Pradesh, on GSDP, on its growth, which was around 8.5%. And this year we are targeting around 12% growth. There are very few incidents in the world where a state has continuously for more than 10 years grown by 10% and has become a developed state. There are definitions of developed state. So we are trying to work on that. So when we started the work, we had completed our Aadhaar work before bifurcation, Aadhaar identification. And immediately we started matching all the schemes which we are having, so individual name and Aadhaar work, and match the name. And we suddenly found that there are 64 lakh ration cards, 64 lakh units of ration cards where persons are not existing. So those names simply got vanished out of the system because these were all bogus names in the name of people who were not there, and they were claiming all the subsidies. Along with that, we came with a point of sale device where if you swipe your ration card, the information goes to a control room as to how much of a commodity has been lifted from which shop. And suddenly we found that 20% of people are not coming to the fair price shops. So one was 64 lakh people were not existing. Second was 20% people were not claiming. Now we have taken that to the next stage where every pregnant woman, there are 9 lakh pregnant women at any given point of time in Andhra Pradesh. In fact, if you see 2-3 days back, there was a Millennium Development Goal report which came out, which talks about the world poverty will be halved by 2015 December. And from January, sustainable development goals will become effective for all over the world for the next 15 years. And we realized that in case there are 9 lakh pregnant women, and if our infant mortality is 39, which means 66,000 children are going to die in 1 year before the age of 1. So we started tracking all the vulnerable mothers. We have the phone numbers. You can see our real-time data site, and you can talk to any pregnant woman whether she is getting proper services or she is not getting the services. And we suddenly realized that we could reduce at least 33,000 preventable deaths. And if it happens, we become the best in the country. If we bring it down to around 4,000 or 5,000, we become one of the best in the world. On similar lines, if we see maternal mortality, again we see there are about 990 deaths in a year of vulnerable mothers. 15% of pregnant women are vulnerable. We are trying to work on that. We are the best in milk. Our turnover in milk is around $4 billion. Every year we can add about $1 billion to that. In prawn cultivation, prawns, we are doing about $3 billion in a year. And how can we grow? Japanese are interested in setting up huge cold chain for us in the coastal area. Around 50 companies are ready. Japan imports $55 billion worth of seafood. Their average consumption is around 62 kilograms per person. Our India average is 3 kilograms per person. World average is around 15 kilograms per person. So how do we start working on all these areas? So we have taken ICRISAT as a critical partner with us, and we are trying to develop that. So if you look back at the last 1 year, technology, investment, we actually are a deficit budget state. We don't have surplus with us. We are having a huge crisis. So we are trying to create number of mutual funds where we can borrow money and we can try to move faster. So there are a lot of things which we have done. We are going to be the face of East Asia as well as up to Australia and China, because we have deep sea ports. We have 14 ports. At the moment, we are doing around 200 million tons annum of cargo. We can take it to 400-500 million tons in the next 4 or 5 years, which means that so much of produce will enter, will go to hinterland, and from hinterland material will come and then go to foreign countries. It's a logistics as a division on which we are working out. In fact, last week we were having a 2-day program, which was a 3rd session in ISB. All our bureaucrats, we take them like you for 2 days in ISB, and we sit down with best professionals in the world and try to work with them. So we had 16 vice chancellors, 16 registrars, Professor Sinha, who had set up the ISB and who is now setting up Ashoka University, and Mr. Sudarshan, who set up Manipal University. They were sitting with us. We have done self-rating of our universities as to how we can improve the universities, because today in India, around $60 billion is the higher education income. $13 billion is the money our Indian children go abroad and they spend the money. Can we become the international higher education hub? On that we were discussing. So it's decided that around 25 international universities with local collaborations will join us in setting up higher education hubs in Andhra Pradesh. So what is happening is our total economy is around 5 lakh crore. We normally grow by 50,000 crore in a year. We want to grow this year by 1 lakh crore. So where do we grow? Which are the growth engines? And roughly when you divide this total economy by the population, that's the per capita income. So it's India's per capita income is hovering around 1 lakh, 1,10,000. Haryana is the highest. But again, there is a problem of inclusiveness. Everyone doesn't get it. There are people who are extreme poor. There are people who are making more money. And average is taken, so it becomes a problem for us. So when we talk about management of change, it says that we start writing and documenting whatever things we are trying to do, whatever policies we are trying to make, while implementing them. So it takes around 36 months of time when things come in place. So ease of doing business, ease of constructing a house, all these things are there where national, international ratings are given. Like India was 140 worst in ease of doing business. We want to be in the best 20. So we are calling World Economic Forum to set up base with us, Lee Kuan University from Singapore to come and work with us to find out which are the indicators where we are poor. So now we have started e-base. So if you register for your company in 21 days, permissions will be given. Otherwise, deemed clause will come. That it is deemed that you have been given permission, you can start your industry. Ease of constructing a house. India is 192nd in the world. It takes almost 292 days to get permissions for builders and others to construct their houses. In the process, the house cost goes up. It becomes a major problem for the system. As a result, people cannot afford a house and it becomes difficult. So we are trying to address all these issues, but most critical will be the primary sector, where almost 60% population is there and the total contribution to the domestic product is around 20%. So what I will say is one part of my discussion, what is happening on urgent basis. We don't have institutions, we don't have capital, all institutions are being left behind in Hyderabad. We are trying to build up new things, but that crisis is giving us a lot of opportunities to work on. So in the first year, we have stood 6th in the country. We have got 8.5% growth. Telangana has 5.2% growth. And the highest in the country is 10.2%, which is Madhya Pradesh. We are targeting 12% growth. And the first quarter results have come and we are on target. So we are trying to work out a whole lot of disaggregated data, technology, use of that. All the milk farmers' telephone numbers are available. The connections are being established, telephone exchange plus cloud-based information system, how much milk is being sold by whom, how much money is coming up. So it's all being used, part one of my discussion. Now, part 2 of the discussion is, till now we were talking about macroeconomic theories, whether our state is stable on economic front or no. But last 10-15 years, a lot of discussion is happening on structural change. Structural change means that unless we deliberate a change into development, things will not happen. If you take an example of East-West Krishna Guntur, East Godavari, West Godavari, they have been having very good irrigation for the last 150 years. But if you see the growth pattern, industry has not grown there. So the surplus of agriculture, where is it going? Is it going in land purchase? Is it going in gold purchase? Is it going in education of children? But the industry is not growing. As a result, society will stagnate. In fact, in 2007, Anantapur became number 5 in the Andhra Pradesh after these 4 states in agriculture. A drought-prone area, the only drought desert district of South India, was trying to catch up on the lines of a model of Israel, where you have whole lot of micro irrigation, fertigation, whole lot of things along with that. So unless we bring deliberate changes, things will not happen. How these changes will come? Let us go to Singapore. Now, if you see Singapore, it got independence from Britishers in 1963, and 1965 it separated from Malaysia. They have an economic development board, and they had a very simple thing. It was a small fisherman's village of 700 square kilometers and trying to struggle and survive in its own way. They said, first we will create jobs for children, and every child who's got a job in the 3rd year will get a house. Like now, if you see all of us Indians here, our parents have always thought that before I retire, I must have a shelter above my head, and I must have a house before I retire. But Singapore said, no, in the 3rd year you must have a house. So what now we are doing for Andhra, in the next few days, we are coming out with a construction policy of housing. We think that all of you in the 3rd or 4th year of your job must have a house. Prime Minister has already announced an affordable house for everyone by 2022, which basically means if I am a district collector, I have a very nice policy of sanctioning. So I bring the builder, I bring the banker, I bring the association together and say, would you like to construct a housing colony? In the shortest possible, in 21 days, I'll give you permissions. Banker is willing to give loan, association is willing to set up together, and municipality says, I'll give you all utilities around that. I'll give you road connection, I'll give you water, I'll give you electricity, don't run around. So what normally is done in 3 years, and builder charges for 3 years of hard work, can it be done in a smart way in about 7, 8, 9 months time? The new construction technologies have come. So straight away, flat which is being sold for 2,500 to 3,000 rupees per SFT, actually the construction cost is only 1,000 rupees per SFT, plus 200-300 rupees for land. So can it be sold for 1,700-1,800? So we have realized that there are about 12 lakh employed people in Andhra Pradesh who will be looking for a house. Suppose we say we are constructing houses of 10 lakh, 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs, and in 1 year you will get a house of your own. Either you occupy or you give it on rent to somebody. But what happens with this investment? 1 rupee invested in construction brings 1 rupee 50 paise into GSDP directly. Another 1 rupee happens as an indirect income by having malls, super bazaars, hospitals, all other facilities around that, and huge jobs are created. So if you do it this way, and out of 1 rupee,